just
No,
kind of
they're
like,
just
I was
running
like,
the giant push mower outside. In fact, my room is shaking, so I just wanted to make sure that it was good. All right, yeah, you go.
No, you're good. Hello and welcome to another episode of Monday Morning Manager. My name is Dillon. I am a writer for City Xtra. I am joined once again by the amazing Philcaso. We are here to talk for the first time in months. Honestly, it feels like we're here to talk about a City loss. City losing 1-0 to Aston Villa. A lot has already happened in time. I'm recording an hour after the result. It has been a lot of people have a lot of emotions. I am just curious what your thoughts are, A, on the result, and then B, to the reception from the fans on the loss.
I think the performance is pretty similar to what you would expect, given our personnel and given our performances with similar personnel at this same place over the past two seasons. I mean, we started off better. The first 15 minutes were really good. I thought, well, maybe this is turning a page, a new chapter in this bogey team that we have now. But then it just turned into those exact same matches that we've had the past 2 years. It was just the physicality was way too much for us to cope with. I thought maybe prior to the game, maybe they would try and approach with the wingers to bring them inside more into a more inside forward role to pack the midfield. Didn't really see that. Kind of decided to try to expose their weak points down the sides versus combat them in the middle. And we kind of, I would say, gave up on that battle at a certain point. Yeah, I think the performance wasn't as bad as those. I don't think that we gave up on a personnel basis. I think tactically we kind of gave up certain areas of the pitch, but I don't think at a personnel level we had any effort issues or anything like that. I think the team tried to do what they could do, but I don't think Pep had his best day in terms of the selection and stuff like that. I mean, our Cherki and Marmoush, I understand that they're coming back from injuries. Are they coming back from Achilles tears? Like how much do they really need to be bet in here? How many 10-minute appearances does Cherki need? I know me and you had spoken a bit previous to this about how maybe the physicality was warding off a Cherki start in midfield personally, in terms of like seeing what happened against Spurs of him getting boxed out with Sarr and Bentancur in that match. Maybe you don't want to see that against Kamara and Onana in this match, but maybe you just start him on the right wing instead of Bob. Maybe, you get your best players on the pitch, and I don't really feel like we did that today, but it's not the end of the world. Like you said, the reaction has been as if we didn't just go 10 unbeaten. I think that people are so desperate to be upset about something given last year. I'll just put it this way. I think a lot of people last season built their brand off of being upset at City and upset at the manager and upset at the players. And I think that a lot of people have been waiting this season to get those takes off again. So I think that we're seeing a lot of that today. I don't think it really reflects reality. I think that we will relatively be back to regular scheduled programming here pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree with probably 95% of everything that you had just said. Personally, I don't think that starting Cherki would have been a good idea. I don't think that not having a start since coming back from injury and coming against such a crazy physical midfield, we saw what happened in the Spurs match. I just don't think right now, currently, that would have been the best decision. I'm going to hope, pray, and assume that Nico G just was not fully fit, that ankle was not able to do 90 minutes. He came on and looked great in the limited time that he had. And I'm just going to assume that Pep and the medical team was like, he can't play a full 90, because the moment that he came on, it was such a difference, and City were able to really kind of take control in that the back half of the second half. And I really did think that they were going to equalize for a moment. But looking back historically on this fixture at Villa away, it has just not been a particularly great time for City fans. I think this is the third year in a row at Villa Rodri's been out, and it is like, once again, City have not won. And honestly, I thought this performance was the best out of the bunch. If we just want to look just purely from a stats perspective, City had almost double the XG. They were at 1.05 to 0.56. They doubled them in shots. They had more shots on target. They had more big chances, had higher possession. When you compare that to the 2-1 last year, City did have more possession, but they were down on XG. They had more shots, but just overall, I remember Villa having like absolute control. And then if you remember the 1-0 from 2023-24, I mean, they were outshot 22-2 in that game against Villa. That is easily, I think, the worst game of Pep Guardiola's career. And it just was due to that's when City were in the absolute doldrums and it looked like they weren't going to win again. But this is just what Villa away has been. That midfield is just built to fucking feast on a City midfield, especially that doesn't have Rodri. Like, they just win every ball, every 50-50, every duel. And I do think there's a little bit of City not being really like up to their best. I saw David Mooney pointed out on Twitter, and I agree as well. It's like you look at Nunez complaining before conceding the goal, like thinking that he should have gotten the call. You look at Gvardiol not getting that penalty call. I know you had mentioned previously, and you put it on Twitter as well, of like Nico getting caught in the face and there not being like any call for it. It's like City don't get these calls on top of all of like the other 50-50s not going their way, and it's just going to, like, this is just what happens. It's just going to be a really tough result, and I was honestly expecting worse. So I'll take the loss. It sucks. They're 6 points off the top now, but honestly, it's what I was expecting.
I think that this is just, you just have to expect two of these games minimum every year when you go to Villa away and you go to Newcastle away. That's just how these teams are built. They are mid-table teams that are willing to live on the PSR borderline, so they have deep squads that are built hyper specific to play a certain style that troubles the big teams in the league. You see it every year. These teams give City, Arsenal, Liverpool trouble every year because they're willing to spend all their money on physical bruisers in the midfield. And City and these other top teams, Arsenal are a bit better because they've decided to also lean into the specialization a little bit. But City just can't really compete with this because this is not how we want to have to. We don't want to have these players and have to play these players that would do well in a match like this in a big Champions League match. So we have to pick our poison and just try to get through these matches in the season. And we struggle every year. I think that, Spurs are another team that used to play this way and are playing a bit more this way like them as well. And you see we go back to struggling with them again this year too. I just think that this is always the style of team that is just pretty much always going to give a Pep style team issues. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, Brighton as
it's
well
not the
with
end of the
Baliba.
world. Yeah, exactly. Any of these teams that could just throw out these monsters that, one of their strides is two of Bernardo Silva's. Like, I just remember one time, Oscar Bob's dual numbers this season in terms of percentages and volume are incredible. So he is one of the top duelers in the league. And I just watched Onana just treat him like he is a dad playing with his kid out in the backyard. He just pushes him to the side and takes the ball off him. And what are you really supposed to do tactically against that other than just play a different player that can do better in that situation? And do we have that available to us? I'm uncertain. So yeah, just have to get through these ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, Reinders, talking about duels, Reinders 0 for 7.
I never want to
Rough.
see him play six again. Right?
Rough.
He has to, but it's just like, this is why I think that we probably honestly need to buy another physical midfielder next year, especially if Kova and Bernardo are going to leave, because you can't go from Rodri to Nico G, which is fine, to Reinders. That completely changes how we have to play. I wanted to say at a point like they weren't protecting him enough, but do we have a set of players that could have protected him enough in the
Yeah.
midfield that would play ahead of him? I'm unsure about that. So yeah, I don't really like that. As you said, Nico G, it was night and day when he came on the pitch. His duel winning, he cleaned up a couple. Every time Reinders went up, like you said, he lost every duel, but he would go up to try and counter press when they're in transition, and the ball, it would look like he's about to take it, and then it would somehow just always make it through to like Rogers, like through to the next line of play, and then they're pinging it around out wide or something, and then they're progressing it up the pitch. As soon as Nico G came on, that stopped. It didn't go out wide and then come back in through miraculous means. He was getting stops there, and I think that is super critical, especially if you're trying to do what we did to end the match, which is you're playing Cherky and Foden both in advanced midfield. You definitely need something like that behind them. So
I'm curious, is there anyone else that you think that to really harp on? I don't normally like doing this, and this isn't to say that these players aren't good enough, but is there anyone else that you thought that really did not have a good match, that did not really stand up to kind of what you would expect?
it's hard for me sometimes because these players are such top footballers that I don't want to say like, oh, they were terrible. Because when I say they're terrible, I'm mostly looking at, oh, this player wasn't themselves. They're out there misplacing passes. They're doing this and that. I don't really feel like we had that today, but I do feel like John Stones was largely ineffective in the role
Yeah,
that we normally see him at, inverting into
I agree.
midfield. I think the really early hooking, which is not something you would normally see. Pep loves John Stones. He would probably love to keep Stones on the pitch at all times if he could, but bring him off that early says to me, okay, this system isn't really coping very well with what Villa are doing. I don't feel like he was that impactful in terms of touches. Normally, I feel like he's such a high volume touch player when he plays in that inverted center back role, and
Yeah,
I just feel like they did a good job. Maybe if it was on, I'd have to rewatch. It's still very local to the end of
34
the game,
touches.
which is super. I would expect him to be Rodri type touches when he's playing deep in midfield for us like that, and just and that's around 100 touches for me. So to see
Yeah,
it so low, it just really felt like, okay, this isn't really the strategy, and I've been a bit frustrated over the past few matches, anyways, to see us go away from the system that had got us up and running in such a good way in an attacking sense, just to go back to this treble system, just because I feel like Pep has a soft spot in his heart for it, which I understand. It's maybe the best period in his career in England was had with this system, but I think it's also worth remembering during that season how often we struggled in the beginning and even a bit towards the end of having that system, especially if you were to go into 23-24 as a system when we were trying to continue to run that system with Stones and then Akanji, we just saw it
Kanji.
completely
Yeah.
fall apart. So I'm not a huge fan of seeing this system. I hope that we stick to the Nico O'Reilly out wide being our inverting player into midfield as opposed to John Stones currently. But who knows? We'll have to just see how that one develops. Pep's been known to be stubborn in these things, and even though we're frustrated, sometimes when they're stubborn, sometimes it does come good. So we'll have to see on that.
Yeah, I mean, because they had run it in the Villarreal match, and I thought that for the most part, I mean, it wasn't the Villarreal match was just very simple. We're up away in the Champions League, and we're just gonna fucking kill this game. So it wasn't exactly like a tactical masterclass. But I do think especially when there's no Rodri, I understand the need to then maybe bring potentially Stones, who has more experience, as that essentially like extra body versus Nico. But yeah, with the substitutions, he put Nico on. I actually thought it was a bad Nico match, and he looked very hesitant. And I don't know if that was because I don't know if that was a physicality standpoint, but there were a few times, especially first when he came on, where he like got the ball and just you could tell he was just thinking and just kind of sat in the ball and like whatever time and space he had, he lost. But
Yeah,
other
I
than
was just
that,
thinking.
I go for it. Go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think that period where he got the ball right on the corner of the box and he just basically
Yeah.
froze, and then they took it from behind him, and then the cross when he didn't put it in right away.
Hmm.
It just it feels like we just took him out of the side for no reason. Like I feel like
Yeah.
he lost. Like 2 weeks ago, I feel like he's putting those in and he's putting it in accurate, or he's flicking the ball on a Foden accurately, and I feel like I understand the tinkering just so that we have these options. We have the muscle memory for later in the season if we need to make adjustments and stuff in terms of having Gavardiol play outside. But it's just frustrating because 5 days ago, Gavardiol comes out with all these quotes saying, I'm loving playing at center back. It makes the role simple for me. This is what I'm here for. I've loved doing
Yeah.
this season. Defend the goal, protect the goal. This is all I care about. We played 2 games since then, both games at left back, and he drops maybe our top overall performer from the season in terms of Nico O'Reilly. If not, he's up there in the top five for
Yeah.
me. So it's just that's a bit frustrating. I would
I
like to
think
see
Erling Haaland
that.
might have something to say about that.
I do too, because him and Nico O'Reilly have been having excellent chemistry. I
Yeah,
mean, the
absolutely.
crosses coming in from wide have been sensational, and then I love Gavardiol, and I even think Gavardiol is a good left back. He provides a lot of value there, but he is not a crosser of the ball. I think we saw that again
Yeah.
today with that one cross that he shot into row whatever. It hit my window. So I just don't want to. I don't want to see that really, to be honest. So hopefully, especially with Aiton Ori on this,
Yeah,
this whole
absolutely.
bringing players back from injury has been really weird for me. This is not normally how we handle it. I remember in years past bringing Kevin De Bruyne back from injury. It's a fifth, even from tearing his hamstring completely. It's a 15-minute cameo here, and then you're into a start the next weekend. This has been very slow played. So I'm expecting all three of the guys who came back from injury to start against Swansea, just off rip. So hopefully they can get into some chemistry there, and hopefully bring back in the other guys. So
Yeah, Gvardiol, if he's not shooting, like from that kind of edge of the 18-yard box. There's not really. There's nothing better that he really offers than Nico, and Nico also has proven to be able to score just in different ways with making like late runs into the box and using that kind of training from when he was a kid. But I think the only people really to praise, I think Foden. I think Foden played really well for the most part. I think he got really unlucky with the Onana, saving the shot with his head, and he had a. I think it was Kanza that kicked out that ball to Haaland, where it really looked like for a second City were going to have a chance. I thought Nunes played well as well. I had been super critical of Nunes, and I thought it was just a very safe, steady performance, and I'm surprised to kind of see this keep ticking along.
Yeah, I think Foden was interesting. It was like he started off that when we were on top, Foden was great. I think that the thing that probably frustrates people with Foden and maybe even frustrates me a little bit is how easily I feel like he fades when we're not on top in matches like that. But I also kind of feel like that's kind of in the style of player that he is. You'll see that a lot with your Fodens, your Musialas, Verts, Palmer. If the team isn't able to have possession, these guys aren't physically imposing like that to be able to claw it out themselves. So I think that he struggled a bit in that middle portion of the match. But like you said, he had multiple through balls today that I thought on a different day, these reach Holland and he probably scores, especially the one you said to Kanza. I mean, that's a super defensive moment from Kanza. You're not expecting him to be able to telescopically get his leg out there like that. So, yeah, I think he was good. I thought Doku was interesting when he came on. I think he was
Yeah.
certainly better than Savinho on that side. And I understand if you want to get Doku rest, especially seeing him slow down a bit over the past two matches in terms of performances. But you almost wonder if today wasn't the day for it, just because if you have to play Savinho on the left, then I don't know if it's worth it. If you have Marmouche that you're willing to play at left wing or even Turkey at left wing, then I kind of understand it. But after what we've seen from Savinho on the left wing, it's not doing it for me, man. I really feel like it just reduces. He gains something so small, right? His shooting is marginally better on the left in terms of instead of having 0 goals scored, he's got 2 goals scored. So that is a bonus, I want to say, but it completely ruins his dribbling. He no longer is the unpredictable player that makes him so dangerous on the right. I just think of the assist versus Villarreal. The reason the assist to Bernardo happens is because he is completely unpredictable. The fullback has no idea if he's going to hit the touch line, or, the byline, or go inside. And the fact that he fakes in and then is able to hit the cross to Bernardo, that's completely unavailable to him on the left. Nobody thinks that he's cutting inside on his right
Yeah.
foot. There's no risk of that because he can't shoot on it. So there's absolutely no point. He can cross on his weak foot, but he can't shoot. So that's why I just really don't feel like the left is best for him. So I think Doku was an upgrade on that. I'd still like to see Doku be a little bit more greedy in a way to try to get into goal scoring opportunities. I really don't feel like any of our wingers are even really trying to score goals right now. I
Yeah.
think their confidence is largely shattered. And that's another reason I think Marmouche is just somebody that has to come back into the side, even maybe for me more than Cherky at this point, just because we saw it was offside, but we saw what Marmouche brings to this side. He is focused on goal contributions. This guy wants his name in the paper the next day, and normally that would be a problem. Like Holland always says, no one's on the phone more than this guy. I love that he wants to see his name in lights because we need a player that wants that other than Holland because everybody on our team is so unselfish right now. But he was making that run for him to get in behind to do whatever. But I just thought that was exceptional. It's unfortunate that it was offside, but that's exactly what you need to see out of our wingers right now.
Yeah. I For how good Bob looked against Wolves, I think that is kind of almost like how poorly he's felt now. And yeah, Savinho, I think everyone wanted him at left wing shifts, especially at the start of the season. That clip making the rounds of all those assists to Holland coming in off of the left. It just hasn't worked. Like it just has not been as effective as I think any City fan kind of thought. Shocker, maybe Pep knows more than all of us morons. But yeah, it's been rough. My guess is a winger is going to get brought in on top of the physical midfielder, that you had mentioned.
You're talking about Savinho on the left wing and how everybody really loves that and stuff like that. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that he played there at Girona and had such a
Yeah,
great season in terms of goal scoring, and everybody sees the numbers, but they didn't really watch Girona that season. I watched a lot of Girona that season because I had a feeling that Savinho would have a chance to come to City, so I really locked in. And he didn't play left wing there like he plays left wing for us. Like his boots are in chalk for us, and they weren't
Yeah.
for there. He played like the weirdest role ever. You know how most times when you're doing an inside forward role, you're inverted almost every time just for shooting, but he was inverted on his strong foot side, which is really weird. But he made it work just given his dribbling and his. It reintroduces the two-way threat for him because he's able to still shoot with his left cutting inside because he's already on a more interior role, and he still has the overlap, so he doesn't have to actually cut outside as well. So it just opened up a lot for him, and those are just not conditions that he's going to have
Yeah.
here at City. He has them sometimes, but it's going to be rare. So that's why I just really would like to see us go away from it. He's becoming a player that's a bit more hard to fit in because I don't like him that much when he's playing with Nunez on that side. I don't like him that much when he's isolated on the left. So I don't know. I don't know if maybe his level needs to go up a little bit or we need to adjust the system a little bit. But yeah, I think that he's having a bit of a tough time, even though he had a great game against Villarreal.
Yeah, it's confusing because City just signed him to, you know, a long-term deal. It's a,
I almost
I don't know,
wonder
it's
if
a little
that's just to
odd.
keep the price high. That's got to be
Yeah,
just to keep the price
totally.
high. I mean,
My
if
only and the only thing
they're
with oh,
linked
you
to
go.
Elise. Oh, sorry. Yeah, they're linked to Elise. You know, like we get constant linked to Elise. You said that a winger's probably on the way in. It's hard for me to see. You know, maybe it's Bob, maybe it's him. But it's hard for me to see both of them at the club in a season from now, especially
Yeah.
with Turkey uh, playing as well. So yeah, it's just going to be an interesting one. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. I'm all for Elisa coming in. Anything else you kind of want to talk about for the match at whole, or do you kind of want to take a little bit of a wider view at City in the season?
I think that Bob has definitely has. You know, I'm the biggest probably Bob fan ever, and like I said early in the season, I didn't want to get hyperbolic with him because obviously there are ups and downs to these seasons and stuff like that. I think that we are not really putting our do you remember in seasons past how many tap in opportunities and like opportunities our wingers had for easy goals in terms of if they are just able to execute these? I just don't feel like we get any of these opportunities anymore. I can't remember the last time we really had a tap in goal like that. Like today we were seeing that with Marmoush and Holland and stuff like that. So I think that we need to get back to that. I don't know how that happens. But yeah.
My only thing around like the tap ins with wingers is I do think the system slightly has now changed with Holland. Like I just think that now, in a way, it is just feeding him. And I think because of that, we are going to see, especially just from a goal standpoint, I definitely think that those goals are going to go down. The flip side of that is that the assist numbers then really should rise. We really, especially without there then being De Bruyne, where it's just feeding him, it really then seems that the rest of the assist numbers should then climb. And just right now, it's not happening, and that does worry me. But and I think it's when you kind of like then zoom further out for the season overall. I mean, 9 games in. I mean, look, they granted as long as Tottenham don't score a few more goals. Right now, still highest in goals for with 17. They are second in goals against with 7. Arsenal at 3 is just an insane right now defensive number. I think overall, like yes, like City are reliant on Holland, but he's the best striker in the world. So like, of course, we're going to want him to score goals like crazy. I mean, I wrote about it when the day that City signed him, and my article for City Report came out. It's like think of every chance that fell to whether it was Jesus, whether it was Raz, whether it was any winger that or forward that was blowing chances. Holland is for the most part burying them. Like, I does that make City maybe one dimensional? Sure, okay, maybe, but I don't think we've ever seen a striker, especially at Holland's age, with that type of like pace, power, and understanding of the game and spacing. Like he just finds space no matter what, and everyone knowing that he's going to be on the ball. And so I just think that it's going to take a little bit of time for City to truly, truly build into this system because I think in the treble season, it wasn't really like that Holland reliant yet. And it feels like we're now entering that space. But look, yes, City lost in a game that they have lost even in seasons where they have won the treble or the title. They lose and do not perform well in this fixture. And I'm not that worried. It is a little worrying that this is now the third match that City have lost and we're in, late October. It's not too damning quite yet. And I do think that City are still in that like window that we would expect at this point of the season. And when you look at these fixtures that are coming up, like I do think this is where City are still able to make a run, and it really just depends if Arsenal keep this pace. There's nothing City can do. There's really nothing that City are able to do if Arsenal are just going to be defensively this strong. But I don't want to be the best team in the league in October. I don't. I just like that does not guarantee success at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I know I mentioned the tap-ins and stuff. I honestly don't believe that the Haaland over-reliance is really a thing. Like you said, this is how the team is built. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And like you said, maybe it is a really good point to the fact of why these tap-in opportunities and our wingers aren't scoring goals is Haaland just gobbles all these opportunities up. He's just there. He's just never dropping deep so that the winger can crash the back post. He's
Yeah,
just crashing the back post himself. So that makes sense. I just maybe my point more so with Marmoush is that I feel like he really capitalizes on Holland's gravity to an extreme degree.
totally.
Uh, Newcastle, Brighton, last season, yeah, I think you really saw that of when all these center backs are hugging into him or anything, or Holland makes a run one way and Marmoush makes it the other way. I just don't think these are things that really can be dealt with. And coupled with the fact that Marmoush's right foot is almost as good as Holland's left foot, I just really like to see more opportunities, more people to feed
Yeah,
because you know I feel like they're always looking for Haaland. Savinho had this chance to put the ball across the front of goal today, and Foden was crashing the back post, and Haaland was around the penalty spot, but he was marked by two men, and Foden was free at the far post, and Savinho doesn't even try to shoot it across
yeah.
because they're not really looking for anybody else. They don't really trust anybody else who's normally a creator to do these goal scoring things. And I think when you put Marmoush on the pitch, I think that changes. I think that that's another player
Yeah.
that people are looking for to constantly feed in and stuff like that. So we're obviously
I
going to
agree
see
with that.
everybody play. So
I the fact that there's no one else on the team that has more than one league goal. That's not. I don't think that's a good thing. I think it speaks to how good Holland is and how the rest of City's team is able to score. But there does need to be, and I'm surprised, honestly, it's not Foden. We know what Foden is able to do. I'm surprised he has not. Granted, he is playing a little bit deeper and all that, but I'm surprised he has not come out as the one that's like kind of scoring those goals. Or Reinders, from what we had saw in that first match against Wolves, it just seems now a little bit more like an anomaly versus kind of what we'd expect. And granted, he also has been, I mean, he played as a six today, so it's not really like we're going to be expecting him to be making late runs in. But yeah, there needs to be one other player, whether it's Marmoush or Cherky if he starts to play, or Foden, that can kind of be that secondary goal scorer. Because look, if Holland only had 5 goals, there'd be a lot of talk about what's wrong with him. And so it is kind of like a double edged. It's like he either is going to score a ton and we're relying on him, or he scores a little bit less and the rest of the team scores, and it's like, oh, is he really even that good? So it's just kind of it's just a damned if we do, damned if we don't type of situation.
yeah, I 100% agree. I remember last year and the year before, everybody complaining about Holland not getting enough chances. Nobody's looking for Holland. Why don't we try to feed in Holland? And then now it's we're feeding in Holland too much. So I definitely feel that. The thing with Foden is I think that again today, like you said, for most of the day he was played as an eight proper, and his role has been less consistent than I think people think it has been because he's been playing in midfield every match, but once Nico got subbed on today, he went into the tip of the diamond instead of one of the corners of a box
Yeah.
midfield. So, and he instantly became more dangerous. Like you said, the shot that was blocked by Onana, some of the other chances that he was creating or close to creating after making runs today at the end of the match. I think that it's going to be really critical if you want Foden to score more goals to have him really close to Holland. And I know Pep has said that before. I want Foden close to Holland. I want Cherky close to Holland. I want Marmoush close to Holland, but I don't think we're seeing very many players close to Holland. I think once we got him a little bit close to Holland, I definitely feel like we felt more dangerous. So I definitely feel
Yeah.
like we're just making adjustments and stuff like that.
I'm curious to see what will kind of happen over the next run of games. The last thing to mention, so it's Swansea away at the midweek, then Bournemouth at home, Dortmund at home next midweek, and then Liverpool.
And then Newcastle
Who,
after that, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, that's I think it's an international break because it looks
Okay.
like there's 2 weeks in between. So Newcastle will see. Newcastle it felt just real quick as an aside. Newcastle felt like such a banana peel type match, but now it just feels like Eddie Howe's never had a good record against Pep. I also think part of that was him at Bournemouth, and that I'm no longer as worried about that match as I was when like ASM was still there and just like terrorizing Kyle Walker. It feels
Yeah.
a little bit less of a threat, but I do think that Swansea and Bournemouth, good side. They're second in the Premier League table, which is crazy. They've only lost one match, but I really do think that this is where City can kind of still try to pick up that form. And yeah, I still feel confident. Granted, I think I was much more confident in this run of fixtures, even with how historically Villa away has been. I still think that City are really able, if they are going to prove that this is a different season, they have. I think this is all four of these have to be wins.
I I absolutely agree. I think that this is a really tough stretch. I think this is like one of those early, like, I don't want to say make or break, but like, show us what, like you said, show us what you're worth, like show us what you really got. Because, you know, maybe these aren't the best teams. We're not playing Arsenal, we're not playing Madrid, but Bournemouth are a quality side. Like you said, they're high up in the table. Liverpool, I know that they've gone through things, but they will show up that day. They will turn up. That will be a brutal match. I have no misconceptions about that. Obviously, yeah, the Swansea, I'm really interested to see what that lineup looks like. I'm unsure really how many senior players are going to really get a full run out there. We didn't really take it that serious in the first round of the tournament, so
Yeah,
we'll see on that one. I think that we obviously got to come through this. On a side note, well, I guess not really because we're talking about the schedule. I went through and looked at the entire schedule, and it's really front loaded for us this year. If you look like post March, our run-in is like really simple compared to like years past and stuff. But what that means is that coming up into this Christmas period, it's going to be, Thanksgiving, November, yank moment to Christmas is going to be it's going to be brutal. And I think that we really are going to have to hit our stride a little bit earlier than I think that we would normally be forced to hit our stride in other seasons, where we can be okay waiting until March to really be okay. I don't really feel like that's going to fly this year. I think that, over this next stretch, like you said, we really need to really nail down how we want to play and who's going to be our main contributors and the guys that we can rely on and consistently go back to get us through these tough matches. So yeah, really looking forward to this next one, especially the Bournemouth match. I think that those are sometimes my favorite matches. These mid-table sides that are gonna not just pack it in. They're not gonna play a block. Bournemouth are gonna come and try to play football against us. We're capable of losing that match. Obviously, I think we did last year, right? If
yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
So, yeah. So definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that look, I think there's a good chance that like Turkey and some of the other injured players might get a run out against Swansea. I do think it's just a good way to get them 90 minutes against lesser competition. And Dortmund, I haven't watched Dortmund, but they're looking at the Bundesliga table. They've seemed to have a really good defensive record. The only Bayern have allowed less goals than them, and that's just not really what I would expect from Dortmund. They just usually just seem to just be so leaky in defense. So it seems like potentially a little bit of a different side, and that might be from a midweek standpoint before Liverpool. That worries me a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah, dude. I mean, Iriola, you can't complain. He is such a good manager. He made Kirkaz look like a $40 million left back, bro. I mean, come on. You got to give the guy his flowers when you can. I'm
when you can
sorry.
fleece a top six side.
Milos Kirkaz, if you're watching this, I apologize. You're making way more money than me. Don't take it from me.
All right, man. I think that's it. I appreciate you coming on. As always, thank you to Freddie and Jordan. And no, I didn't buy the channel. I'm not rich enough to do that yet.
That's crazy. I was going to ask you if
And
you bought the channel or not.
no, I did not. Yeah, I know. I know
Okay.
it's a
All right.
big talking point. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, download, leave a review, all that fun stuff, whatever it is, whether it's on YouTube or in audio form. Appreciate it. Have a good one.